Hello, everyone. So, once again, here we are ready to interview a woman called by God and has dedicated her life to ministry. Once again, my name is D. London Anderson. I'm the president of the Women's Clergy Network for the 2020 through 2021 school year. And Kristen, tell us a little bit about yourself and your involvement in Women's Clergy Network. And what are we doing today? What is this directory about?
Yes, so I am the mentoring coordinator for Women's Clergy Network at the Andrews University Seminary. I'm so excited to hold this position. I work with a phenomenal team of women, and we are building a directory of women in ministry, professional women in lay and vocational positions, so that others can find opportunities for mentoring and networking relationships.
Awesome. Awesome. So the woman that we will be interviewing today is none other than Pastor Aubrey Toup. Please, Aubrey, what are you doing? What are you doing? Pastor?
It's good to see y'all. I am currently the associate pastor at Stone Mountain Seventh-day Adventist Church in Georgia, in the Georgia Cumberland Conference.
Awesome. Awesome. And so we're going to get right into it. And our very first question that we ask is, what was it like answering Christ's call to ministry? What was that journey like for you?
It's a great question. It was a struggle. It ended up being a blessing,
Yes.
But it was a struggle. I was definitely a Jonah. I had never dreamed of being a pastor. I had never thought of being a pastor. My dream was to be a teacher from the time I was in like first grade. And by the time I was in sixth grade, I was like, it's going to be a music teacher. This is what I want to do with my life. And I love singing and playing in the band and everything. And God had different plans as I got to know him in high school. And I formed my own personal relationship. I started asking questions and wanting to be more involved, not only in my personal relationship with Jesus, but the church.
Yeah.
I started feeling called to ministry, and I was like, that's not for me, Jesus. I can do a lot of other things I'm passionate. Look, you gifted me with this passion for music. See, that's obviously what you want me to do. And Jesus had other plans.
Yeah.
So by the time I was a senior, I had full ride scholarships to any college in the state of Florida between academics and music. And I did something crazy and applied to Southern Adventist University instead and got in. And I applied there because I knew God was calling me to ministry. I didn't want to do it, but I didn't want to go against God because I knew it was wrong. So I was like, I'll just go there and I will declare a triple major, and that's called undecided. And I will do my dreams and Jesus's dreams for me. So I was music and I was education and I was theology. And God was gracious enough to be patient with me for my whole freshman year until I switched over to being solely a theology major. But that took so much. So many conversations with people, so many sleepless nights and tears and journaling and praying and questioning and delving into, what does that look like? This is scary. I don't want to do something new. This is how I've pictured my life for years. And I can't see it any other way. And having to trust God with my heart to say, okay, I think I know what's best for my heart because I'm me. But gonna say, okay, Jesus, you know what's best for my heart. And I decided to go ahead and accept the call to ministry. I changed to a theology major. And within the first week of classes, I was like, why did I wait? This is it. This is what I needed to be doing all along. You totally knew. And then I loved it. So that's a little bit of how I came to ministry.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah. No, thank you so much for sharing. Kristen, you're about to say something?
Yeah, I think it's so powerful how you had this struggle, but yet ultimately you realize that what God wanted was what you wanted as well. And so I think it's so profound to show that journey and how we progress in our understanding of what God wants for us.
Amen.
Absolutely.
Amen.
Thanks, Kristen.
So true.
So let's go ahead with our second question, which is, how has your educational journey shaped you?
Awesome. Okay, so K to 12, I was in public school, and that shaped me so much for ministry because it gave me a passion for people who are not Adventists who are not Christian, and it gave me the skills and the ability and the desire to be with them. And I take it as truly a gift. And I'm thankful for that time. So I think that shaped me K to 12. And then, as I mentioned, I went to Southern Adventist University, where I got my bachelor's in theology, and I ended up getting a minor in music. And that time trained me how to be a pastor. I wholeheartedly learned what it meant to be a pastor when I was at Southern. I had no clue beforehand. I just was following and tried my best to get to see what God did. And he graciously opened my eyes and gave me opportunities to learn at the feet of other wise and skillful pastors. So I'm really thankful for that time there. And then I took a break and went pastoring for 2 years before I went back to do my master's. That was definitely part of my educational journey. We'll just throw that in there because that was the most important part. I couldn't have done it had I not gone to Southern, right? I needed those foundational things, but theory and practice are so different. And so those 2 years in the field shaped me more than I could have ever dreamed, and positively. Like, I loved my first pastorate, and it was phenomenal. It gave me such a love for people and a deeper compassion for people, and more of a passion and a desire to push forward in ministry. Like, yes, this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. This is where God is leading in my life. So it was very affirming. So after 2 years of that, that was in Tennessee. I went up to Andrews University and got my master's of divinity, where I met these two lovely ladies. And I will say that time made me want to go back to ministry. You know, like, there were a lot of good things that happened at Andrews, by all means. Don't get me wrong. I'm thankful for, I would say what I'm most thankful for during that part of my educational journey wasn't so much the classes. While there was information I learned, and that's wonderful, it was the people. Because these are the people that I'll hold on to until Jesus comes. These are the people that are going to be walking with me on this journey for the next 20, 30, 40 years, because they get it. And not everybody gets it. And so it did that for me. And then it just spurred me on to be like, yes, I miss ministry. This is what I want to do. I got to get back in the field. So that's a little bit.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I think that that's real. I appreciate how, you started off by talking about what it's like to be around people who are first not necessarily of your same faith, of your same denomination, of your, that, and how that prepares you to love on people when you get into ministry. Because sometimes ministry can seem like, you talk to Christians about Christian things, about how to be better Christians, or how great Christians they are, right? And to have that as a foundation of your educational journey, I think is very, very important. And then just the comparison that in the field education is just not comparable to anything else. The value that it gives, but the information that you did receive from formal education, and the combination of those things. And so I would like to move on to the third question. And the third question is, what ministry related positions have you held? So often people count themselves out. This is why we ask this question, because they say, well, I'm just this, or I've only done that. And so what sort of, or this has nothing to do with ministry, it seems like. And so how have, what ministry related positions have you had that were overtly ministry related? And what ones were not necessarily when you were first in it, but has still benefited your ministry today?
Awesome. Okay. So the first one that I think of is music. I was a member of a choir, and I wasn't leading the choir. I wasn't the one picking the songs. I wasn't the one putting us up on stage. I just was a member, and I just liked to sing. And little did I know that would be the spark that spurred me on for the rest of my desire to want to be a part of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. Like, that community, that experience of community and being a part was crucial. And so I'd say that was the first one. And then throughout my undergrad, college time, I let out in different Sabbath school classes, which I thought was like, whatever at the time. And I look back and I'm like, I am so glad I had that time. I led out with collegiates. I led out with young adults. I did some adult Sabbath school classes. I did some kids Sabbath school classes, depending on where I was in my journey at school. And they all shaped me to understand how to reach people at different age levels, and that the work that our members are doing, the work that I was doing, the work that you're doing, even though it may not be preaching and it may not be very public, it's only seen in front of a small group of people, it's so important because sometimes that's the only place these people are going to grow.
Right.
And so that definitely contributed to how I feel about ministry as a whole today. During my time at Southern, I was also a life group coach, which is like small groups. And we'll talk a little bit later about how life groups is in my ministry now. But little did I know that it would impact me, 7-8 years later, that this would be a part of something that I do. I was just meeting with life group leaders. Hey, let me encourage you. Let me pray with you. Not some big, amazing trainer and speaker and running all these groups and baptizing all these people. Like, no, I was just like meeting with a few people every week.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't seem like a lot at the time. And then yet now I know just how crucial it was. So those are a little more of the, I guess you could say maybe hidden positions. And then I also served as a children and youth pastor in Georgia Cumberland Conference at the Ottawa Seventh-day Adventist Church in Tennessee for 2 years. I love that. Little did I know that that would be like such an amazing job. It changed me. I just, again, we'll talk a little about that in a minute, but it was amazing. And then during my time at Andrews, I did something a little unconventional. A lot of people were involved at the Adventist churches in the area, and I wasn't. I was involved at a church on Tuesday nights doing something called Celebrate Recovery. It's a Christ-centered 12-step recovery program. And that was more church for me than anything. And that taught me even more so just how much God loves each and every person, no matter where they are in their journey and how they relate to him and what their actions are. And so that, I loved it. It's something I still do to this day. So that impacted me. And then now I'm an associate pastor here. So
awesome.
I so appreciate that God has used you in so many different facets of your life, from community and small groups and children and youth, and how that diversity of skills can still be utilized today where you are pastoring. So I think that's so phenomenal. The next question that we want to ask is, what areas of ministry do you enjoy the most?
Okay, perfect. This is my favorite questions. I'm so excited. Okay, so I list in my first thing, the first thing I always think of is children and youth, which I just think is hysterical, because when I got put in my first pastoring position, I was so upset that they were putting me with children and youth. I was like, you're putting me with kids and youth because I'm a woman. It's not fair. And I was just not having it. It was just not what I wanted to do. And 3 or 4 months in, I very apologetically called my ministerial director back and was like, you were right. This might actually be my dream job. This is amazing. I wanted to be a teacher for so long, and somehow I just never connected that part of what I wanted to do with teaching was change kids' lives. And then when I got the opportunity to work with children and youth, I was like, oh no, not for me. And then I did it and I was like, yes, this is what I wanted to do all along. Who cares if it's not with music in a school? It's in a church with kids, and I'm making a difference. And kids have such genuine hearts. I love how simply and purely they accept the gospel, how unfiltered it is for them, and how excited they are. And how by setting that foundation, it changes the course of how they'll see church for the rest of their lives. We so often catch them on the tail end and we're like, oh no, we're losing our young adults. Yeah, we are. But what happened to them when they were kids and when they were youth? Like, how were they introduced to Jesus at those times? So that is something that I love. I love being a part of those more foundational moments, and with the youth, those crucial moments, those identity moments, right? They're constantly asking, who am I, and who does everybody else see me as, and who does God see me as, is the question that I want them to know by the end of their high school time. I want them to be confident in who they are in Jesus. So that is definitely my first and favorite area of ministry. I would say that music is a big part of it for me as well. I don't get to do it as much because with pastoring, there's a million things to do, and typically practicing with a praise team is not one of the luxuries you get. But when I do get to do it, I absolutely love it, and it just fills my cup and fills my soul. Then the other two things that I enjoy the most are kind of tied hand in hand. It's discipleship and celebrate recovery. So I'm really passionate about discipleship because I feel so often that I personally, and then so many of my friends and our families and our churches as a whole, don't get to grow and experience genuine, authentic community and have someone to walk with them on their spiritual journey of growth. And that's exactly what Jesus called us to do in Matthew 28. It's so much more than baptize. It's disciple. And we're not really good at discipling. I struggle with discipling. We as a whole, as Christianity, not just Adventism, struggle to disciple well. And so it's one of the things that I'm passionate about and feeling my way through right now and trying to apply as I'm here in ministry, because I want people to grow and I want them to be disciples of Jesus, and I want to be a good disciple of Jesus. And what does that look like? So I'm enjoying that. And that ties with Celebrate Recovery because it's one of the opportunities that affords a great discipleship experience. You go, if you were to walk into a Celebrate Recovery anywhere in the nation tonight, you would be welcomed for who you are. You would be accepted, and people would be so excited to see you and genuinely want what's best for you. And I think our churches as a whole can learn so much from that. Being a place where people can truly come as they are. So yes, that is what I enjoy most in ministry.
Yeah, I mean, I hear you essentially saying that you enjoy the authentic ministry while of course singing and preaching can be authentic. There's something interpersonal that takes place when you're talking with children, when you're ministering to children. They're themselves. They're not fronting or putting on for anybody. When you're in the recovery group, people are coming with some of the most vulnerable things about themselves and are willing to hear what Christ has to say specifically about their biggest struggles in a space that provides them the opportunity to express. And so that's what I hear you saying. And it's so beautiful. And I 100% agree with you that we need more of that is a part of discipling, that as Christ, put together the 12, and then, there were the 72 and there were the multitudes, that these people lived with Christ. Christ saw their bad habits and their negative mindsets and ministered to them and loved on them and welcomed them and fed them and gave them power to minister even though. And so I definitely, it seems like you're getting to experience some of that. And I think that that's beautiful.
Absolutely. And London, really quick, what you just said, giving them power, that's part of discipleship, right? Empowering others. And so I love that that's something I get to do now with my job, is empower others. So yeah, thanks for bringing that out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I heard you say that. I just highlighted it. But if we can move on to our next question, is actually our last question before we ask you to give a message of encouragement. And so this question is, what are your current ministry endeavors? I know you kind of hinted towards some of it already, but if you have anything to add.
Awesome. So I would say right now it's focused on three things. One, I am at a culturally diverse church. And so one of the things that is my goal is to continue to connect and learn. My church is predominantly Caribbean and African. And so I have the privilege and the honor to just hear stories, to hear experiences, to be present in people's lives, and to learn and to grow in a way that I haven't previously experienced so deeply. And so I treasure that. And I'm excited to continue to see how that will grow and blossom and be a blessing. The second thing is life groups. Our church has taken on the endeavor of making life groups the heartbeat of our church this year. We want people to be in community and to experience personal spiritual growth. And COVID has so impacted all of us in delaying that and in slowing that and sidelining that. And we're trying to come back and say, how do we support and how do we help people thrive? And so we're helping to start life groups at our church. That's a big thing I'm focusing on. And then the last thing is preparing for senior pastor ministry. So one of the things my conference hopes for me is that I will, and I hope as well, is that I will be a senior pastor at a church one day. And so I am working under a phenomenal senior pastor right now and learning, how do you do that best? You know, I can do stuff with kids. I can do stuff with youth. I got some cool life group stuff, but how do I lead? How do I vision? How do I be an effective administrator? And so I'm learning that, and I'm really thankful.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I think for such a time as this, right, that we are in our country right now, you know, that I think that's a beautiful opportunity that you have. And I think it's a beautiful posture that you're taking to say, hey, I want to learn, you know, as a white American woman, I want to learn from those that are not just, you know, that are African, right, that are Caribbean. And then, you know, I don't think that there's very many just straight African Americans are there at your church, right? And so I think that that's awesome. And I know you to be someone who authentically seeks to understand. And we need more people, you know, we need more people like that on both sides. And so I'm grateful that you're one of them. And then, you know, life groups, that's back to your back to the original message, right? That's what we've talked about before with the Celebrate Recovery, and being a senior pastor. Yeah. And so yeah, I mean, anyways, there's some things that I can say, but there's women, you know, there's a rare thing that within our church. And I think that it's a beautiful thing that you have a male pastor that is intentionally preparing you for that endeavor. And so really excited for you. And so for those who would like to be in contact with Pastor Aubrey, you may have, you know, maybe you want to learn how to do a Celebrate Recovery and make it a Christ-centered Celebrate Recovery. Maybe you want to hear about the fun and innovative ideas that she had when she was working with youth and young adults and children. Maybe you want to know what it is that she's learning as she's preparing to be a senior pastor, whatever it may be, as she has expressed the ministry that she is currently involved in. If you would like to ask her to come and be a speaker or come and be a lecturer or come and do a workshop, or you would like mentorship from Pastor Aubrey, please contact her via email. As you can see, there is atoup at gccsda.com. Again, that's atoup at gccsda.com. And Pastor Aubrey, before we end this interview officially, please share with us a message of encouragement.
Okay, thanks, London. I think the last thing I would say is that, I'm inclined to go to ministry, right? And to tell all of the women watching that, like, yes, be faithful in your call and do these things.
Men and women watching. There's men
and it's
and
so true. But what I feel impressed to say is that no matter who you are or where you are or what your actions are, what you're doing, what you're struggling with, what you're succeeding with, God looks at you and he loves you and he accepts you, right? You don't have to earn this status. We're sitting here talking about pastoral ministry, and I love it and it's wonderful, but there's no status that comes with that. It's a matter of Jesus being your all, because you can't earn it. You can't work for it. It's a gift. And so just know that in your being, Jesus has called you to do something specific, whether it's pastoral ministry or something else, whether it's ministry in Sabbath school, in music, in life groups, whatever your ministry looks like, he's called you and you're enough by his grace. So
Amen. That is so powerful. And I love that message of encouragement, Pastor Aubrey, because so many times we compare ourselves to other people and we say, look at what they're doing. They have it all figured out. They have the status, they have the position, the responsibility. Who am I ministering in my little corner? No one knows what I'm doing. But yet God recognizes everything that we do. That's why it's a kingdom, we're a body. And so I love that you have brought that out today. We are so thankful, Pastor Aubrey, for your time to share with us your journey, how God has used you. And we are just so grateful for how God will continue to use you in the future of your ministry. We want to also thank those who are watching as well. We are going to be putting on more interviews, so please stay tuned so that you can watch more women in ministry being used by God. And if you want to be a part of this directory, of this exciting initiative, please email us at wcn@andrews.edu. That's again, wcn@andrews.edu. We thank you so much again. Blessings.